Hello, everyone, and thank you for joining us for our last Who report of the season. I know it's sad, but we've still got you for one more hour of good old Docky Who talk. So I'm here with the wonderful Aaron. Aaron, how you doing?
I'm good, and I think this one is a fully loaded whopper of an episode as well, isn't it?
It is. I just tried uploading this as a PowerPoint document to the software that we use to run this, and it said, please lower your file size. So we're running the old PDF today. So we're going to jump straight into it because this is absolutely jam-packed. We're going to start with the wonderful Webosphere, which we do every week, talking about what's going on in the internet this week. And here we are. We're going to start with some good old RTD because he's always in the news. Hi there, Russell. Let's do the Time Lord again. Definitely. We got some of the other guys here as well. We got Colin and Greg have joined us too. Welcome. So we've got RTD's been making waves this week because, of course, he is. Explain to us what he's doing this time, Aaron, because it's
Well,
quite.
did you read the controversy? Do you think it's a controversy? Is it worth the waves that are being made over it? We've got a couple of, news stories there saying Doctor Who boss causes waves, and people say he's lost it and lost his mind. What do you think he actually said that has caused people to have a meltdown online?
Well, I know what he's done, and we're going to reveal it right now. He has been posting random AI slop on his Instagram stories. They're not made by him. They're stuff that he's found on the interwebs from other people that are sort of fake behind the scenes Doctor Who videos from like the Hartnell era and some really weird stuff that has been putting on there. But yeah, what are your thoughts, Aaron?
I think it's all a bit of a storm in a teacup, really. I think the stuff that he's been posting, as in posting some behind the scenes stuff that's been AI generated, and then fans are having meltdown, are basically the same stuff we post sometimes or talk about and go, oh, look, there's a picture of Paul McGann and Billy Piper. Is it AI generated? Maybe it's not,
Mm.
maybe it is. But because he's posted it, it's had a huge ripple effect where people are just lambasting him all over the internet, saying he's lost it. Interestingly enough, though, he said a couple of comments and posted some stuff. The video that's been going around of him saying, "Oh, look, I can see a day where they bring William Hartnell back and all the other doctors. He died in the 70s, and we can bring them back. Wouldn't that be fantastic?" That video is from 2 or 3 years ago, and they've
Mm.
just sort of resurrected it to fit the narrative that he's going down the AI path. I don't know if the people who are pulling the video up are actually telling everyone that. Did you
Mm.
know that?
Yeah, I remember watching the interview back when he first said it, and I was actually kind of excited about it because let's be real, we would love to see some of the old actors back. Obviously, at the moment, we've got David Bradley as the first Doctor, and he is wonderful. But if we're to get like Troughton back or John Pertwee back, or even putting Tom Baker in it, because obviously he's not going to, show up on screen anytime soon, I don't think. So it's an exciting idea. We've seen some major waves in AI recently. The first sort of big TV show to do it over the last few weeks was Ted, did an AI generated Bill Clinton, and it ended up looking pretty decent. There was an actor behind it and who did the voice and everything, but the overlay on the face was AI generated by AI artists.
Well, the other
So
show
yeah, it'd
that's done it,
be
and
cool.
it was a major character for the entire series, was Starfleet Academy, where one of the recruits was actually a hologram.
Yeah, remarkable, right? Yeah, crazy. Geez. Uh, Look, I know that it's caused a lot of waves. I think, yeah, like you said, it's a storm in a teacup. I think people are forgetting Russell is also a fan of Doctor Who. So if he's seen these
Yeah.
videos, he probably just thinks they're cool. Like they are from
Well,
what they're generating.
on the next slide, we've got the two things that he apparently posted that caused everyone to have a meltdown. Oh no, we've missed a slide there, have we?
That's
Oh,
all.
maybe a slide didn't go through. I did have pictures of the two, and they were just behind the scenes AI generated pictures of William Hartnell on the set of
Mm.
Doctor Who. So it was just like, I think it's a storm in a teacup. I also think there's so little Doctor Who news at the moment. Anything that does come up gets magnified 10 times as much as it should. That slide we do have there is oh yes, that's it. So
Here.
maybe I sent them to you out of order, but that's actually the two images he posted, and it's meant to be
Mm.
the studios during rehearsals or behind the scenes stuff where they've got William Hartnell and sets of the TARDIS and things like that. And it's not just Doctor Who that have been doing this. There's all these different shows where they've been doing the same thing, and some of them fooled me. I saw one that was behind the scenes of the Titanic, of pictures I hadn't seen, and then later saw that it was just all AI. It is weird because, you know, they're recreating moments in history that are actual moments, but people are kind of rejecting them because they're not genuine photographs. So for me, it's just like scroll past. But for some people, I think that's not a hill I'm going to die on, arguing against AI on it, not AI. So
Yeah, look, at the end of the day, um, if this was someone like Stephen Moffat posting it, you know, not in the showrunner chair currently, I think it would just pass. But because RTD is still technically in the chair, he's still doing this one special at the end of the year. I think a lot of people were kind of freaking out over nothing really at the end of the day.
yeah. So I think, yeah, we've said this a lot. All these podcasts go over and over, but
Mm.
and we analyze it, and thus we add to the problem as well. But the slide you did put up was someone who does
Yes.
actually advocate for AI, and this is our old friend and social influencer, the Vile. And the Vile is quite up for using old doctors. That one there, he's is a Vile AI, and it's John Hartnell, and he is like making a sequel to. I think it's the Claws of Axos, the Revenge of Pig Bing Josh. And as you can see, that is photo accurate, and that's the level of AI I expect in our Doctor Who.
Good stuff, Aaron. Good stuff. Well, moving on. Look, these are some of the other AI things that are going on, and these have been really cool. And I'm actually kind of surprised that RTD hasn't been posting this sort of stuff as well, because these are crazy good at the moment. Walk us through these Troughton images.
Well, we were looking at this in the Destruction of Time a couple of weeks ago, where there are people now taking the telly snaps and using them as reference and upscaling them to HD and using AI to make, you know, little 5 second clips out of them. And I am someone I say I don't mind the AI. I usually don't like it and don't really see much value for me watching, you know, reconstructions of Hollywood movies done in different styles by AI. But I don't mind
Mm.
these. They're little 5 minute windows into the past. They were never color and they've been colorized, but they're not bad colorizations where the skin looks green or something like that. They actually, because
Mm.
AI is doing them, they can really match skin tones and things. So I can see the pros and the cons of AI, and that's why I had one hideously malformed picture of one of the doctors, and then some really good attempts at recreation of stuff. I mean, where will it end? All I can say is we saw Louise Jameson a few weeks ago, and someone asked her what she thought about AI, and she basically said, "Do you know when they invented the printing press? People said it's going to be the end of the world, and it just turned out to be a tool to help, you know, people. In some ways, it took jobs away, and AI is just going to be the same thing. I think everyone will adapt to it, and probably 5 or 10 years from now, when the technology's either been abandoned or perfected, we'll all be laughing at this. The one thing, though, there's a lot of people who, you know, are saying it's AI slop and we don't need it. Some of the AI is way better, especially the colorizations, than what a human can do. And if it was taking away a job from a human because it was doing it to the same standard, I could understand. But when you've invented a technology where it looks better than what we can do by hand, you've got to see the pros in it as well as the cons.
Exactly. Well, some other breaking news that happened over the week. Oh my God, Aaron, David Tennant is back for like the 50th time. How
Oh, gee,
crazy is this?
do I need to slam my head on the keyboard over and over and over? Oh my gosh, like, do you know what? This time it didn't really even for me. I was like, I bet that's going to be Big Finish. And then you click on the videos and they draw it out and draw it out and draw it out. And it is Big Finish. And it is, again, one of these slow news cycle things. Although I do have to say, when the BBC official site posted it, they did put David Tennant is back as the 10th Doctor, and they didn't put Big Finish on it either. So I think they knew what they were doing.
Oh yeah.
And it's one of those things. Is it worth keeping Doctor Who in the headlines by like making mountains out of molehills, or would you rather just wait for true, genuine news? I mean, I guess they're giving bones to some of the people who create videos and make a living out of it, I guess. But boy, I don't need to sit through a 28-minute video just to hear, oh yes, and it's a radio play.
Yeah, well, I think the reason they're doing it is a nice sleight of hand trick because of what we've got on the next slide, and that is the news about where these actors are at the moment, because they are not anywhere near filming the next special for Doctor Who.
Well, this is the thing that I highlighted. This is going around the web at the moment, just like today, even kind of thing. These are odds being taken by bookies as to who will be the next Doctor. Anyone who takes any of those bets is just throwing away their money, because they're not even casting the next Doctor at the moment. And, there's probably some thought of it. But before a new streaming partner or a new production company takes over, all of this is pure guesswork. So, famously, in England especially, you can take, bets on anything. It was very famous that bookies were wiped out in 1969 because they took bets in the early 60s that man would not land on the moon by the end of the decade, and they did. And so people won a lot of money. But you know what? You'd be more likely to win money saying men are going to be back on the moon this decade than you would be betting on any of these people as being the next Doctor Who. And some of the people, I mean, I don't know if it's just a slow news, or they've just gone, well, half of them we're going to do living doctors, and we're going to, say an old doctor is coming back, or then we're going to hedge our bets with people like Hugh Grant, who asked to be the Doctor before and turned it down. And then they've gone through, I guess, some of the hip young things at the moment, who could possibly be asked to be the Doctor, but absolutely none of them, I think, are in discussions or anywhere near to it. So as far as I know, I think it was the Scottish newspapers, they are just drumming up money for the betting companies at the moment. I mean, Paul McGann, yeah, he could come back, absolutely true, and all the other ones. The thing for me is, it's been really interesting looking at the web as we've been doing this show, of how a lack of news is always fueled by someone making stuff up. So there is never really a lack of news. There's been no Doctor Who and no announcements for since middle of last year, and yet still HBO's taking it over, YouTube's taking it over, like behind the scenes, like dramas, like new producer, no new producer, new Doctor, no new Doctor, new companions, the companions, the Doctor, the companions are coming back. There are no new companions, and none of it at the end of this sort of news void will be relevant or true at the end of it.
Yeah, that's completely true. But I think we can all agree with Kelvin here. David Tennant will never leave. I wouldn't be surprised if he comes back again as the Doctor. It would not surprise me one bit. But next up, we're jumping into the exciting world of WhoTube. Now, Aaron, you've got a video clip for us that we're going to play in just a sec. Give us a bit of a spiel on what it is before we get into it.
So toy fans are going to love this episode. We're looking at character options adverts, and we never got them in Australia, and they're amazing. They're like a high budget toy advert that would have shown in the morning with the cartoons or the morning shows or something like that. And some of them are fantastic. So let's just jump straight into the first one.
The TARDIS is under attack by the Doctor's enemies, Slitheen, Cassandra, and Sycorax. But don't worry, the Doctor can fight them off with his sonic screwdriver. Oh no! The Daleks have joined the battle! Time to get out of here! Doctor Who action figures and playsets.
From character.
So you would have grown up. You would have grown up during this time when you were younger, and this would have been the audience you were in the audience that these ads were aimed at. Did you ever see any of these online or remember any of the advertising for character?
No, obviously it was not a thing in Australia. They didn't show it, on the Saturday morning cartoons or anything. But yeah, I never saw them. I don't really know if they were on YouTube around the time, if they'd been put up. But yeah, really cool little ads, very reminiscent of a lot of ones that I, grew up with. So yeah, very cool. I can see why this would have, been like just drugs to kids, really. This is, brilliant.
Well, I can tell you, if you get online and look them up, you can watch like, years and years worth, and they are actually worth watching because they do have to be continued and go into the next line. And you can see here the Daleks are gone, but the Cybermen turn up, and the Cybermen go into the TARDIS, and they drain the power of the TARDIS. Yes, we've got a character episode. So, and I do think they are good, and I do think they are funny. But there's a lot of things when we look at these ads that I think are very relevant. The Doctor Who toy line, when it launched, was obviously launched towards 50% boys, 50% girls. We're probably going too fast through the slides. And that actually surprised me because it shouldn't surprise me, but I remember when I was, working when these toys were coming out, girls were collecting Doctor Who figures. At the moment, it's a very high ratio men to women, but the show back at the time and the ads were obviously aimed at everyone. And you can see through the toys that they released that the playability was aimed at girls and boys. And that's maybe something that's forgotten a bit now. So when we look back at the toy line, we think there were some strange choices with the characters they made. When you look at them as well, they release stuff season by season. So you can see, they had, I think the first 2 years were kind of all mashed together because there was nothing for the first series. They only got stuff out right at the end of the first series. But then the second year there was waves for series 1 and series 2, and just about every major character you could recreate the iconic scenes with the toys that they released. And character did a really good job in making miniature sets that displayed the toys and advertised the toys, and back then they weren't doing CG. So I do think it would be fantastic to see some of the character collectors now actually recreate the sets from the adverts. The one in that picture up in the top right corner with the Autons breaking through the department store window with the glass all over the ground. I don't know how that would play for kids, having broken glass in an advert, with toys to play with. But I do think Doctor Who fans were really lucky in that we got a toy range that was aimed at kids, where the detail on the toys and the accuracy was also going to please adult collectors. So you hadn't seen these ads before. What did you think of the pictures from the ads as we're going through the slides?
They're really cool. Like you said, they're linked with the seasons. Obviously, series 1 and 2 was all jumbled together when they realized that they had a hit on their hands. But you move through and you get things like the Ood later on, and it's almost as if they were pushing it as, if you saw it on TV, you could buy it in the shop, and that's very like reminiscent of the way that they did it in the 80s. So it's really cool to see, and I'm assuming quite a bit about how it went. Did it go down well?
The ads were a phenomenal success. I mean, some of the sales for the early Doctor Who figures were, I think, between 100 and 200,000 units, where we get a run of 5,000 now. So it's absolutely crazy how many figures we got. This ad here is an interesting one. It combined the cyber helmet and the sonic screwdriver, and you see you've got young actors who are looking like the Doctor and Rose, and I actually think it's quite a scary ad and a scary concept for kids, but kids love to be scared, so that probably worked really well. I can't see many little girls saying, "Oh, what I want for Christmas most of all is a Cyberman voice changer unit," though. But you never know. And of course, the sonic screwdriver. And the ads themselves, had like hundreds of these toys in, and kids putting the Cyberman helmet on and becoming Cybermen. I think they're absolutely brilliant, and I can totally understand why that toy was released 4 or 5 different times and was a top seller. Did you know the Cyberman helmet outsold the Dalek helmet, which is quite amazing? But I guess
Wow.
kids can pretend more to be a Cyberman in a helmet than like a Dalek in a helmet, which
Yeah,
looks a bit strange.
yeah, probably. Well, the you couldn't see character doing that these days, really. I can't see them releasing a giant mask with voice changing modulation anytime soon, because they're just not as big as they were, and obviously we're not getting as many figures as we used to. As you can see here, that's the whole range for Series 3. Like, that's crazy, the amount of characters that they were pumping out.
Well, it is interesting because we have got to Series 3, and for Series 1 and 2, there are multiple ads and multiple products through the whole year. And by the time we get to Series 3, there's just sort of one ad for for the first wave of toys, or maybe the middle range of toys that gives the best sort of group shot of what's coming out. But again, it's interesting to think back where Doctor Who was so popular, we could expect a range of toys every season, sometimes two, and then TARDISes and TARDIS console play sets, and then other peripheral things like the sonic screwdriver or the Masters Sonic and things like that. And you can see it hit its peak with David Tennant, and by
Mm.
Series 4, the trend, like the show was still massively popular, but the trend for toys had probably come down. And also, I think what happens is there is a little bit of weakness in the show for characters that transform into toys well. So the first couple of seasons, you've got very iconic scenes, and they can sort of mine them for toy ideas. And by the time you get to the later ones, maybe the monsters are a little bit too left of field, or not quite popular enough to be turned into successful toys that kids are going to buy hundreds of. I mean, there is one advert, you see the picture there, where there's hundreds of adipose, which for a Doctor Who fan looks pretty cool. But if you get a toy as a kid and it's just the 12 tiny little adipose, I mean, apart from sticking them up your nose, what are you going to do with them?
Yeah, look, they are very cool shelf decorations, but yeah, they're not exactly the greatest army build playset in the world. And we've got here
And
as you mentioned, the Dalek change helmet, which we've seen a lot of. I think that's one of 3. They did the Dalek, the Cyberman, and the Jadoon, if I am not mistaken.
yes, so and the Cyberman, they did the Cyberman, the Cyber Leader, and then the Cyber Controller with the brain in. And I don't remember if they did a third one, which was like the weird black-headed. I can't remember on that one, but I know the cyber helmet was one of the biggest toys for the year, which I think caught them by surprise. I know that from Australian Toy Fair, where they pumped that really hard, and they said themselves they probably didn't order enough of them in. The Dalek voice changer, even though the Daleks are quite iconic, they all wound up in clearance stores here. I know I got a ton of them from sort of Brand Smart and stuff like that, and they had cleared them out from like $69 to about $19 each. But even now on the secondary market, these are toys that don't turn up as much. And I can understand where you do a comparison for like the 60s Dalek play suits, how they would have got destroyed much in the same ways as these do. And here's something really interesting, Nick. When I was collecting toys in the 80s, the Dalek Mania was 20 years previous, and it was impossible to get stuff from the 60s in Australia. These adverts are basically 20 years old now. And for me, these toys just feel like they were around yesterday. And it is strange how when you get older, time sort of dilates. So this doesn't feel old for me. Do these toys feel like these are part of your childhood and a long time ago, or do they feel pretty recent to you?
They feel a bit of both. I never had a Dalek voice changing helmet, but I sort of more remember them now as seeing them in the shop. But the toy range is now 20 years old, pretty much, since the first range came out in 2006. So it's really weird. I guess really the only thing you can say is you're getting old, Aaron. Not as old as
It's
Dags,
true.
but you're getting old.
Well, it's the demographic. If you look at all the people watching and sort of commenting along with us, their toy memories would probably be from the 70s and 80s as well. So I would dare to say that every one of the people watching would probably go, they aren't vintage toys, even though they just about are, because everything from the new series for me as a collector feels new and the old stuff feels very old. And the way that we've collected as well has absolutely changed. So when I was buying stuff in the 80s, there was no internet, there was no eBay. There was a couple of collectible shops in Melbourne that just made Doctor Who's toys seem very rare and very far away. Now, like everyone says, we have a grail, we can't get it. No, you can get any Doctor Who toy if you've got enough money. There's a difference between looking for something for 20, 30 years and finding it and going, oh, like this toy's only 5 years old and it's impossible to find, but there's 10 of them on eBay if you're willing to pay 3 times what they're worth, kind of thing. So for me,
Yeah.
these aren't nostalgic. They're an interesting time capsule that you can find on YouTube of an era of the show that was out after I was a child. So I was collecting them as an adult collector then, but I do like to see the crossover, how some kids grew up collecting these toys and would see these adverts as very nostalgic. Obviously, you're just a bit too old to be in that demographic.
Well, this next one actually is nostalgic for me. The sonic screwdriver. I got the Matt Smith sonic screwdriver for Christmas when I was about 10 or 11, and I absolutely loved it. It was the best toy in the world. Running around with a sonic screwdriver was just so cool, and seeing all those figures that built into the Pandorica, I very vividly remember all of those in the ABC shop. So for me, this is very reminiscent of my early days in Doctor Who, because I started watching the Eccleston stuff as Matt Smith had just begun airing.
Yeah, Toys R Us did. I was blown away when I walked into Toys R Us and they had an end of aisle display of Doctor Who figures, because me being a Doctor Who fan has been very put down and teased about Doctor Who. I never ever thought it would go mainstream. So when the figures came out here in the ABC shop, I was shocked. We didn't get series 1. We only got from the beginning of series 2, the waves of figures. And when they came out in the Toys R Us, I was just blown away. And they used to have them in Maya and David Jones. And the crazy things is the distribution in Australia was David Jones had exclusive. So they got the multi-doctored like 10 packs and stuff and the giant size Daleks. Maya had a different exclusive. So they got different figures. The ABC shop got pretty much everything wave by wave. And Toys R Us, I think they got about the first 2 waves of figures and then they just weren't successful enough and they stopped getting them. But Doctor Who was quite big in Australia for a little time. Even Dimmix had Doctor Who figures in with the Doctor Who section occasionally. The sonic screwdriver there, I don't know if you have a favourite Doctor or a favourite Sonic or what. That is the most popular one by far. I don't know if it's about the design or that it springs up or it's green.
I think it's the playability. Yeah.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, David Tennant's just goes up and down, whereas this one you could flick and you could wave around like a wand. Yeah.
Yeah. So even later ones and earlier ones are popular, but none are as popular as the Matt Smith sonic screwdriver. You can see by then as well, the sonic screwdriver was advertised with the wave of toys, and there was 1 wave of toys advertised for the year. So the budget had obviously gone down for the advertising for Doctor Who figures from character, but I still think they're great adverts.
Yeah, they are awesome, and luckily they are not lost to time, as we well know some of the episodes are, which leads us right into the destruction of time, where we're going to be talking obviously about the news from the last few weeks, which is that Master Plan has been returned by Film is Fabulous. Well, a couple of episodes.
Yeah, we've talked about on the special we did that Master Plan is back. And I thought about like this being sort of the last episode in this run of the series. Do we talk about this or do we talk about something else? And I thought, you know what, we're going to talk about this because unless there's another recovery really soon, we're not going to be having this sort of excitement again. So I did think about what we would do today and what we would talk about. So Film is Fabulous have put up 12 videos of restoration of these episodes, and they're very, very short clips. Now, I didn't really want to see much more of it before I saw the episode. So if you really don't want to see them, I guess you can put your sound off or whatever for a tiny bit. But I don't think they ruin anything because it's mainly not plot points. It's just looking at film restoration they did. So we've got half of them we're going to have a look at, and we have to say these are exclusive to Film is Fabulous, and it's the BBC letting them use the clips. So we're using them for educational purposes to look at the restoration that's been done, and anyone who wants to see all of them should go to the Film is Fabulous website or YouTube page, and all of them are put up there and you can look at them for free. Interestingly, I didn't want to see a lot of clips, but I do like seeing these because it's like guess where they are in the episode, because 6 seconds or 10 seconds out of context could be anywhere. Some of them it's obvious, but some of them aren't. So have you seen these, Nick?
I watched them all last night. There, I think 12 or 13 were out. I think number 8 or something popped up on my YouTube feed, and I was like, oh, that's obviously fake. And then realized it was from Film is Fabulous, who I didn't know had the YouTube channel. And I went through and watched all of them. There was one in particular. I don't know if it's in this lot that we're going to show in a moment, but it was of the Doctor. And it shows side by side the original film and the restored version. And my God, they did a phenomenal job. Like, there was tears in the film. There was it was very washed out. It just looked really worse for wear, and what they've done with it is just phenomenal.
Well, I didn't go for any of the long clips, so these are all, I think, the ones that are under 30 seconds. I think the other ones are longer. Most of these are only like 10 seconds each. So, so I thought we'd just have a look at them and discuss what we're looking at and the before and after with the restoration. They're going to be shown side by side.
Yeah, cool. Let's start with the first one.
Find help here?
I don't know, my dear, but I must try. Now, I want you to stay here and look after Stephen. I shall be as quick as I can.
I'll do as you are.
Splendid. Now, you know which switch to pull to close the door, don't you? So I want you to do that straight away. I have my key to let myself in.
Key?
Yes, this child, key.
Yeah, so obviously the unrestored one is on the left. And when you watch it, it just shows you how much has been changed. It almost looks like the film almost had like water dry on it or something. It's almost like this sort of hard to explain, like when you get a watermark or something on it, and it's through the entire clip, and you can particularly see it because it's got a black background. So when you see that, and when you see the restored version where there is no pop and crackle and there is no sort of ghost of like marks and stuff like that, it really does show you the difference between, you know, just a recovered film and a restored film. And you know what? I would show that to someone like my wife and she'd say, I don't see any difference between the two. So if you're watching it and going, well, the original looks fine for me, probably did, because that's the kind of film that would have been shown and projected before someone like the restoration teams go in and clean it up. So everything is, I guess, degrees in people's life. And if some people prefer watching VHS from DVD, I prefer a clearer picture over the nostalgia of not being able to see anything properly. So if you are looking at this and going, I don't really see any difference and I don't think it cares, that's a totally valid opinion. Some people like the pop and crackle. What do you think, Nick?
I love the restoration. I think it's fantastic. I love the process of it as well and the time and care that they've put into it. I'm very much looking forward to seeing what they end up doing. And I kind of almost wish that they would release it widescreen side by side for the whole of each episode, just so you can see how much they've done. But I don't think that'll be the case. I don't think we'll ever see that.
No, it might be stuff you get behind the scenes of on a restoration featurette, or you might get them on the Film is Fabulous website as they restore more and more. Now, I don't know if the films have been restored and they're showing stuff they have restored, or I don't know if they're restoring them at the moment, and as they go along, they're putting clips up to see people, so people can see the process. But it has been interesting, and we've only got a week or a week and a half to wait before we can download the whole episodes.
Yeah. Well, let's go into the second clip that we've got here.
So that's great to see because it's the opening title for the episode. But you can also see, and we're going to see this in a few of these clips, that one of the prints was really washed out. And you can see, I think maybe they put the title there because when they have the title in Terry Nation, yeah, everyone was used to seeing that. We saw the 10th generation Web Planet in the Mitcham kindergarten, where one of the Doctor Who Club of Victoria meetings was on. I kind of feel my whole life I've watched like 10th generation wishy-washy stuff. I'm quite happy to have that in the past and watch the really cleaned up 4K versions now. But as I was saying, the Terry Nation and the title almost blended into the I guess the dial, because that is white and they were white, and that wouldn't have been how it was originally broadcast on videotape. And because the film has maybe faded, they've had to bring back the darker and the blacks to make it stand out. So I thought that was just an interesting tiny clip to see just how a color shift can affect the how the film looks.
Yeah, the contrast just looks fantastic. Let's go to the third clip.
It's caused the loss of the Terranium core. Had the Daleks made...
Well, we got
so that's a
Daleks.
tiny one, and it's got the Daleks in. But again, and Kelvin will probably remember this, when they originally released The Dead Planet, I'm getting flashbacks to how that was, where even though it was an official release, it was very washed out. I think they had very bad prints of some of that story. And so there was obviously no... Yes, I wish I was watching it on a bigger screen. I wish I was going to the premiere, which is sold out, but it would be great to be able to see it on the big screen. We won't get that in Australia. But when they released the Daleks, I think they said at the time the restoration team wasn't really in charge of anything, and they said they would just find any old print that was laying around and convert it and release it. And I think we're very lucky as Doctor Who fans that we have someone who are Doctor Who fans and care enough to make the difference.
That's one thing that's so great about Film is Fabulous. It's sort of their passion project is Doctor Who, when they're doing all this other stuff as well. So that's really great to see. Let's go to the second last clip that we've got.
What are you doing out here, child? I thought I told you to keep these doors closed.
There are lights out there.
So
I think
that
you could
one
see
again,
there was some tears in the end of the clip.
Yeah, that one is really washed out, and you can see there's film damage. Now, we don't know if they've just picked a section that's got the film damage to highlight that. I would probably say it's been put through a projector that's damaged it, so the whole film is like that. I could be talking out of my ass. That might be not the case at all, but obviously there's some emulsion where there's some tears in the film that they've corrected. And the best thing is it is invisible when you look at the restoration. What they've actually done and fixed it up is we're getting perfect black and white copies of a 60-year-old story that hasn't been shown for that long.
Yeah, well, we've got one last clip that we're going to show, so let's pop that up so we can move on to the next area.
No. Did they speak and tell you so? No. Then your accusation is preposterous.
How is it the intruders knew that the Terranium was here and that it's to be handed over?
So that one you get Zaphon, I think it is, the alien delegate. And in the first part, it's so washed out, I think if you didn't know what you were looking at, the seaweed-like face would actually blend into the white background, and you've got Mavic Chen and Daleks in the mist over in the background, and all that's been cleared out. So again, they've pulled up the blacks and made the contrast higher, I guess. So it really pulls out the detail in the picture. So I am really looking forward to these when they're returned.
Yeah, I wonder if they're going to remaster the second episode, which we already have back, just as a bridge, because I wonder when we do watch episode 1, and I'm assuming a lot of people are going to do this, bridge it with episode 2, which has been returned after a long time, there I think is going to be a noticeable dip in quality.
Well, I think the restoration team did do Day of Armageddon, and it doesn't look bad from what I remember, but obviously because that was 20 years ago, I'm sure there's improvements they could make. I don't know if they're putting up that episode on iPlayer, though. I think they're only putting up the 2 missing episodes. I think at the film premiere in the cinema, they're showing the 3. I think. I can't remember. But it would be good to see if there is any difference between the level of restoration between the ones that were released 20 years ago and the ones that are going to be released this week or next week.
Yeah, it is very exciting. We've got here a little bit about Film is Fabulous. Give us the spiel, Aaron.
So, Film is Fabulous is a charity organisation. No one makes any money out of it, and they do pay people for their collections. And it, of course, costs to catalogue and restore and give collectors their collections back. And it is done as a free service. If you are like me, going to probably set up a VPN so you can watch these episodes straight away, maybe think about, hey, maybe I'll chuck them some money, which I will do through their website, which is a simple case of going to their website and clicking on a PayPal link and paying. And I mean, if you just watch both of them once and you chuck them £5, I mean, we wait for these things forever. I don't think that's too much for anyone. And, you know, if you think you're going to buy them down the track, who knows if they're ever going to be released on physical media or when they will be. So if you want to see more of their work and you want to see this sort of way of returning stuff and presenting it to the public more often, let's make sure the organisation is still around by actually donating them some money so they can continue doing their good work.
Yeah, I agree. And while you're at it, also get your wallets ready because the master is back and we're mastering eBay today. What are we doing? It's our last one, so it's got to be something special because this is personally my favorite segment. I love looking at all the weird, wacky stuff that's popping up all over the internet. What have you got for us today on mastering eBay?
Well, we're not looking at eBay all that much today, actually. So prepare for disappointment, because one of the things we talk about is how people forget there are more ways to buy stuff than just eBay. And it blows my mind that people say, I've been looking for this for years and it hasn't turned up on eBay. And you go, well, it's in this shop and you can buy it and it's the same price as eBay. But people, you know, it's the way that eBay has conditioned everyone to there's only one way to buy stuff online, and that's eBay. But there are other places. So we've got some of the other websites that are around we're going to look at today, and probably the 2 biggest ones from America and England are the Who Shop and Who-NA, Who North America. Both have had exclusive figures and done signings and have a vast stock of Doctor Who. So I thought we'd have a look at what you can get and the pros and cons of both of them. Now, I was going to look at Who-NA first. Have you actually looked at Who-NA? Have you ever bought anything from them?
No, I didn't actually know they existed.
Well, it's interesting that, look, I maybe am guilty of this at, you know, the Aaron's Collectible website, but I find both of the websites we're going to look at today really, really hard to navigate. They have a lot of drop downs for different categories, and some of the categories don't seem to be where you think they'd be, and you end up in ceramic figures before you can find character options figures, or you go to places that are dead links and things like that. But I can tell you, you forget about that, because if you're looking for something, just navigate it and find the areas that you're interested in, and you will be rewarded, because there's stuff on here and it's at lower prices than you can find elsewhere. So with Who-NA, I did the basic thing for both of the shops. Let's look at Doctor Who figures, because it's kind of got a character options vibe to this episode. So I went there, and then I went to, I think, the next drop down, and it had like Doctor Who collectibles and figures and things like that. And the one thing I did find, the drop down was so long that it went off the bottom of my screen, and I couldn't raise the drop down up to find figures, which was off the bottom of my screen. So I might just be old though, but I had to navigate back, navigate forward, put the string up, and then I could find the figures. Who&A had the classic figures and the new series figures mixed together. It has a good selection. I wouldn't say a great selection, but it has a good, decent selection. And it also has a range of prices from incredibly cheap to way overpriced. So when you look at the figures that they've got, I calculate, how much I would pay, and you've got to then add postage. One of the major drawbacks of getting stuff from America is the postage is hideous. And so by the time you've done the conversion and got it across and paid tax and paid for postage, it's a lot more than the prices would say. I have the advantage of being a shop, so I can order a couple of $1,000s worth of stuff. If you order one figure and the postage is $50, it's a lot different to ordering 100 figures and then the postage is $200 or something like that. Not 100 figures, probably 50 figures. I'd get it at once. And if you are a new collector or want to do one huge order at once, the master would probably suggest get a group of friends together and see what they want and make one big bulk lot and split the postage, because suddenly if you're splitting it between 3 or 4 people, the postage becomes much more reasonable. So Who&A, it's good to find some of the last figures to knock off from your collection. They still have the Logopolis Regeneration TARDIS and Peter Davison in stock for about $49 US, which I thought was a really good price because that set's hard to find. They had some of the, you can see there, some of the 10 packs still in stock, but they're $140. But when you think of it, that's $14 a figure if you want to get them that way. So there's pros and cons to Who&A. If you've got someone in the US you can ship them to, you're still stuffed because when they post it, the postage is going to be crazy anyway. So that's the pros and cons of Who&A.
And next up, we've got the Who Shop, which I think a lot of people have heard of, obviously being the #1 place to go in the UK for anything Doctor Who. What did you find on their website this week?
Well, I've had a long association with the Who Shop. I have flyers and catalogues when I was buying from them in the early 90s and late 80s. And I can tell you it's a lot harder ordering overseas from, a paper catalogue than it is these days. I found the Who Shop is a lot easier to navigate. It's not perfect, but it was much more upfront with where you're going and what you're looking at and what you're going to navigate through to. I did have to show you the process. I went to toys, I went to action figures and sets, I went to classic series, and it just came up no product. So if you look at the little box next to the class, there is none. So, Who&A are already winning in that respect, but maybe that's a glitch on the website. I don't know. And then I went to new series stuff, and again, they had a good range. Most of the stuff from the Who Shop is still recommended retail price, which probably means as a dealer, they bought a shit ton of stock when it came out, and they've got a warehouse full of Jodie Whittaker figures out the back. As you can see, they've still got like the Jodie Whittakers and the Shooty and Millie figures. They're £19 a figure, $40. So, they're cheaper than ordering some of the exclusive stuff through character options. I find usually the postage from the UK is cheaper than postage from America. The same thing, if you order a bigger order, you're obviously going to spread the postage over multiple figures. If you get a couple of friends together that want to order stuff, you're going to get cheaper postage again. If you can find it locally, it's sometimes easier buying a figure on eBay for twice as much as the UK and getting free postage, and it still works out cheaper. So if you're smart about your buying, you can shop around the world from the comfort of your mum's basement and still get all the figures that you're after.
Brilliant. Well, another thing that's so great about the Who Shop here, and we have some photos which I believe were taken by you, so these are exclusive photos, of the museum that they have out the back of the Who Shop.
Yeah, it's not always open, and if you're very nice to them when it's not open, like I was with a friend I went over with, and they knew us because we'd actually bought a bit of stuff off of them, they let us go out to the museum and have a private look through. But they have got like an amazing array of original props and costumes and different pieces that are screen used from the show. You can see I'm being molested by the Dalek there, so that was one of the issues that I had. But apart from that, it was an amazing visit. And I got some incredibly rare stuff because they get things that we don't get here. And because they get them there, sometimes they're on remainder. And I know they get a lot of stuff from Telos Publishing, which is a book company done by David Howe, who just releases mainly Doctor Who and genre stuff. And because they're in the UK and it's sort of a mail order thing, we really don't see them at all in Australia. But the Who shop obviously supports them. And they had a lot of leftover limited edition pressings and prints, because they'll often do a run of like, a couple of thousand books, but they might do 20 signed and numbered one. And the Who shop had a lot of those. So when I was there, I bought a lot of those and they gave me a good deal because they'd been sitting there forever. But in Australia, they're just impossible to find. So if you ever get a chance to go to these places, make sure you shop smart and only get the rarest of stuff that isn't available locally for a much cheaper price.
Yes, well, that brings us into the next slide, because we recently had a good friend of the shop head to the UK. And while she was there, she was very excited to see all of the wonderful things that the UK had to offer. But we were a little bit disappointed when she showed us her findings from the Who shop. Aaron, give us a bit of a rundown of the findings at the Who shop.
So I don't know if many people know Lily, who works in the shop occasionally and is a massive Doctor Who fan. She's very enthusiastic, and she did want to go out and see the Who shop and, buy gifts and get different things and add to her collection. So she took the trek all the way out to the Who shop. And she sent us photos of finding police boxes on the way and was very excited. And then when she got there, she went through the shop and she was very overwhelmed, and she was incredibly excited to buy the Eagle Moss supplement magazines for the Face of Bo and the Slitheen that I have sitting in the shop for 50 cents each in Aaron's collectibles. So I think it's one of those things where the excitement of the situation, and probably not being a huge collector, will put her into the position where she bought something that I probably wouldn't have bought while I was over there myself.
Well, look, we love you, Lil, but yeah, not the best purchase in the world. But alas, that is okay. Well, I believe the next thing we have up is eBay. Finally. No? Yes?
No, it's
No.
not.
Ah.
This goes to my prize for probably the best Doctor Who shop globally. And it isn't because of the quantity of what they have, it's because of the quality. And when I was doing this, I was really disappointed to see that their mail order section of their website has closed or isn't operating at the moment. And also, one of the things about Metropolis Toys, which is the shop we're talking about, they used to have a past sales section. And it wasn't because they were trying to show prices or what they've had. It was just because they had such an amazing collection of rare items come through the shop that you didn't see anywhere else. It was a lovely way to look at some of the Doctor Who merchandise that's very hard to find, and there aren't many pictures. So it was a good resource to find pictures of stuff online. Now, I found they've gone more over to the Instagram and eBay model of things, which has pros and cons. Looking there at the top, one of the rarest Doctor Who items is the tin wind-up calendar group Dalek from the 60s. There's a black one and a blue one, and they had a boxed blue one. And that was one of the more recent things they have. And even in their recent arrivals that scroll across the top of their site, you can see they've got some boxed Dalek Rollikins. They aren't incredibly rare, but they're getting hard to find, especially in boxed good condition. And they have some really lovely custom artwork, which is upgraded from the last time I visited the site as well. Did you know about Metropolis Toys?
No, never heard of them, but it looks very cool. And to see a shop doing stuff with the old and the very old stuff is really, really exciting.
Yeah, I think if I ever got a chance to visit them, they would be one of the shops I'd really love to go and see in the UK. I don't think, like I said, I don't think they'd have a shop full of Doctor Who, but I think what was there would be exceptional just because of its rarity and condition, and the rest of the shop would be interesting to see as well. Yeah, I think Jonathan used to visit them when he was in the UK. Oh yes, and he tells a story.
Wow.
I think of the guy Chris who runs it. I think it's Chris. A guy came in from a car boot sale with a Doctor Who cutter mastic, which is a wire heat toy where you cut things out of foam, and he'd found it at a car boot sale and then brought it in to sell. And the guy said, "Does it work?" And he goes, "Yeah, because I found it at the car boot sale and turned it on and cut some of the stuff out." Thus, using a 50-year-old toy and probably bringing the price down hundreds of pounds. But that's the kind of story you hear all the time when you work in the toy industry like we do. But it is an amazing place that it's on my bucket list to visit.
That is so cool and awesome that Jonathan used to be able to head down there on a trip. Does that not make you jealous, Aaron? Let's
Crippled with jealousy.
Let's finally pop up to the Masters Bargain Basement where we are on eBay. Now, everyone, we do only have 5 minutes to go, but we've got a lot more to cover. And because it's the last episode of the season, and I think we're going to go over. So if you want to leave us, we'll cry, but it's okay. But we would love you to stick around a little bit longer as we go through the last of eBay and a little bit of fun in Who's Who in the Zoo. So, Aaron, take us away with this. I couldn't believe this price when you showed me.
Well, we've been banging.
Absolutely mad.
Banging on about the prices of Blu-ray box sets, and so I've been keeping an eye on them. And this came up, and literally, it's going for a tenth almost of what they can go for. So they usually go for about $100. You can see the high end is about 120, the low end is about 100, and this one turned up at $15 and a crazy $5 postage. So you'd get it for about $21, and that was the bargain of the week for sure.
Yeah, well, I don't know if you noticed, Aaron, but I did. That is the same seller that sold the Regeneration box set last week for a super cheap price. So I actually checked them out, and I've added them to my list because they are clearly selling some super cheap Doctor Who stuff. Now, I don't know whether the person who bought that is going to end up with a bunch of pirated discs from China when they get them, but it looks like these guys over at Music Magpie are a super legit business. They've sold a lot of stuff. So it looks like they've just got a lot of really cheap Doctor Who DVDs currently. So if you're looking for anything to fill out your UK collection, give them a look because it is, crazy. 2 weeks running, the bargain of the week has been from the same place.
There you go. I didn't know that. So you're better at this than me. Interesting that Jonathan is here tonight because this is one of the things he pointed out to me. And he found this in a group of 60s TV Week magazines. And I thought I had this clip, but I think I might have had one from a different magazine, not the same one. And anyway, so really unusual, but one of the tips to find interesting items is to go through bulk lots because this doesn't mention what's in the lot. And when you click on the magazines, the seller has luckily put pictures of the more interesting articles in each magazine. And there's stuff like the Munsters and other things like that. But there was a Doctor Who one, and this reaches right back to 1965, which was the first year Doctor Who played in Australia. And being an Australian TV week, you're not going to find any merchandise much earlier than this. So this is an amazing find, and it still shows that stuff from the 60s can turn up on eBay that people don't know about and hasn't been documented. So I can't say that I found that one myself. Someone else mastered eBay better than me this last week.
Well, I guess you better learn from him. I don't know if it's been sold or is it still up for grabs if someone's interested?
It is still available. It's a buy it now. So you get a bunch of magazines for the one price. I do think the price is about worth it for the Doctor Who clips. So if you got them and sold them, you might be able to make the money back and get the Doctor Who one for free.
Unfortunately, we do have a message from Jonathan who did show you this, and he can't wait for it to arrive. So it looks like he's snagged up one really cool piece of Australian Doctor Who merchandise. So well done, Jonathan. please send us through some photos when you get
Yeah.
it.
So there you go, an amazing piece to find, and like I said, possibly an unknown one. So Jonathan might be the only Doctor Who fan or collector that has it in his collection.
Wonderful, wonderful, wonderful. Oh no, he's found the issue separately. So if you want the bulk lot, go out and get it, and you can be the only other person to have it besides Jonathan. But we've got here some Highlanders telesnaps, which is this something that often pops up? The
No,
original old telesnaps?
No, this is something that never ever pops up, which is why it's an interesting item. For those in the know, Highlanders is a missing episode, but John Cura used to offer a service where he would take photos off the screen for actors so they could have their performances, a visual record of them in their resume. And these things were taken and sent out to production offices. Doctor Who has the telesnaps for some seasons and not for others. We are lucky that they recovered a lot of the telesnaps because it has pictures of all the missing material. I mean, I think the first pictures of the chameleon from the Faceless ones was in a telesnap, and no one knew what that looked like because the episodes had been lost and no one really remembered. So I was fascinated that the Highlanders episode 2 turned up as telesnaps, and they went for that much, because you can get.
Have we got them back?
Yeah, you can get the Highlanders photo novel that was in fanzines back in the 80s and 90s, and you can see all the telesnaps. And I guess this comes from someone who's such a big fan of the 60s that they want the original telesnaps in their collection, and that's why this is such an interesting item.
Yeah, that is really cool. Well, if they are ones that we've already got, then obviously if you really desperately want them in your collection, you can go down to Officeworks and get them all printed off yourself. But if you want the original thing, it's already been snapped up. But what a cool find.
Well, they probably got that folder and they've just shaked all the telesnaps into an AI filter, and like a complete 25-minute episode is going to come out the other end.
Brilliant. An episode-o-matic. I love it. Well, we're up to our last little group, a little section of our show, which is Who's Who in the Zoo. There you go, 2 weeks in a row, Aaron. That's pretty awesome. Well, this week's Who's Who in the Zoo, I think we're going to go around the grounds. Is that correct, Aaron?
Yeah, I just thought like we're going to have a look at some of the people that support the show and support like fandom in general locally. And I think it would be very hard for anyone to disagree that the Soul Greg King is one of those people who's been in fandom forever. I first knew him for the Doctor Who Club of Victoria way back in the 80s. He's always been someone who's been in the background and goes to different things and different events, and is always willing to put his hand up to help do stuff, from running his own club, basically single-handedly now, the Bendigo Whovians, to joining us at gay bars to watch Louise Jameson. Is there anything the Soul Greg King cannot do? I mean, he has a crinoid as a Christmas tree. That's some next level shit right there.
It's so true. We love the Bendigo Whovians, and we love you, Greg. Thank you for doing some awesome stuff in the Doctor Who community here in Australia.
Now you could see in that post, one of the people that often posts in the Bendigo Whovians is Mark Dunn, another friend of the shop and a friend of us, and we hang out sometimes. And he actually has his own YouTube page and Facebook page, and it's Who Cave Conversations. And again, because we're on a bit of a character options theme this episode, at least anyway, he has an amazing collection. He's good enough to share his collection. He's sort of opened up a page where he interviews an eclectic bunch of people, either to do with character options or to do with Doctor Who. It's probably the most detailed look into character options that he has. He's in the middle of doing at the moment with a couple of other people. But having access to some of the people who are involved in the production is amazing, to be able to see the behind the scenes stuff. And he's even had some of the actors and actresses from Doctor Who appear on his page. So He's a local guy, and if you're interested in toys or just Doctor Who, it's good to check him out. So there's a couple of different places you can see him. Like I said, YouTube's probably the main one.
Awesome. And we've got here as well, great friends of the show. We promote them a lot here because of the wonderful work they do, getting those damn Brits from Britain down here to Melbourne to Aaron's Collectibles to sign our stuff. And that is awesome guys over at Sirens of Audio.
Yeah, that isn't the only thing they do, but it's why I love them so much. So you've got Phil and Dwayne who have been doing Doctor Who audios so long that they've probably got the best credibility for reviewing audios anywhere on the internet. Their shows are always different and interesting because they get like a really wide range of guests on. A lot of them are to do with the audios or the actors that have been in the productions that they're reviewing, and they've now even branched out to Blake Seven and then doing the Way Back podcast, talking about Blake Seven. I think they're still in series 1 at the moment. So Blake Seven is just a nudge away from Doctor Who. So they're local, based in Sydney, and Dwayne's in Tasmania. I've never listened to anything by them that I haven't enjoyed. So if you are into the audio, definitely a supplemental to the audios as you watch them is to listen to the podcast they do about the audio productions.
And lastly here, we've got the folks over at the good old Docky Who Club of Victoria, or the Doctor Who Club of Victoria, if we're going to name them correctly. Tell us a bit about these guys, Aaron.
Well, Dags twisted my arm to put these guys in because they made him like an honorary member and gave him a lifetime achievement and badges and coins and certificates and stuff. But joking aside, the Doctor Who Club of Victoria is one of the longest running Doctor Who clubs in Australia, and indeed probably the world, going back to the 70s. They've gone through ups and downs and different eras of the club. At the moment, they've put together an amazing compilation, richly undeserved. They've put together an amazing compilation of sonic screwdrivers, 4 volumes so far. They're up to sort of the mid to late 80s, and that's been a lot of the work they've been doing behind the scenes for the last couple of years. They run regular meetings and they have different events like trivia nights, Christmas meetings, movie events, outings and things like that. So yeah, super fan Dags, all hail him, all hail. So if you're not a member and you want like a social network locally, it's probably the way to go if you join the Doctor Who Club of Victoria. All of the clubs that we've mentioned and the organisations, if you are a member of their organisations or a Patreon or something, we will give you 10% off in the shop if you come into Aaron's Collectibles.
Yeah, so that's for both the Victorian Club and also our friends over at Bendigo Whovians too. So yeah, come on down to the shop, come say hi. And that leads us right into really the last slide of the show, which is a bit of a plug for the wonderful Aaron's Collectibles on Shop 3, 1 Main Street, Blackburn. Aaron, what's going on besides you just being super stressed out with all this random stuff we're getting in the shop?
Super stressed out with all random stuff we've been getting in the shop. Aaron's Collectibles, a shop so good you'd drive your car through it to get in. But I think it's one of those things. I love my job. Aaron's Collectibles is a lot of fun. Anyone who comes down, half the time it's more like a Doctor Who club meeting than it is work.
All run by the wonderful Dags.
Well, on Saturdays, you can't stop him talking about Doctor Who. Everyone who comes through the door, are you a Docky Who fan? You know, he's like a broken record. It's Doctor Who and Meow Meows, and then Meow Meows and Docky Who. But yeah, we've got a lot of stuff. That's all I can say.
Well, I think this about sums up Dags here, doesn't it? Did an imitation of Dags doing the silly couch thing. Guy did this to his mate, and now his mate thinks he's insane. Guy, it had nothing to do with the couch gag. And here, yes, as Dags has aptly said here, love the Docky Who talk.
Not. So thanks for everyone in supporting us as we've done a run of the Who Report. Wanted to bring it back because we were right in the middle of news of new series and possible rumours of, missing episodes. The missing episode rumours turned out to be true, so we've milked some episode news out of that for the last couple of weeks. The Doctor Who, what's happening to who, when, and where. That I think will be going till the end of the year if there's a Christmas special or an Easter special or indeed a Christmas special next year. Thanks for being with us and supporting us. I hope we've been a nice diversion to your Tuesday nights.
Well, look, I don't know when we're going to come back, but I can assure you we will come back. One day we will come back.
Oh, yes, we will be back.
So really looking forward to seeing all you guys later down the track. But thank you all for putting up with our nonsense week after week. That is all from me.
I've got a New Zealand. No, I haven't. And that's it from me.
Okay. And that is the end of our show. Thank you, everyone, so much.
Have a good night.